Hey everyone, welcome back to part 7 of our deep dive into the amazing world of toy photography. And today we're talking special effects. I can't actually believe it's already part 7 of this series. How did that happen? Check out the previous videos in which we've explored everything from the qualities of light, compared flash versus constant light, looked at the best lenses for shooting miniatures, discussed various focusing techniques, and deep dived into the technique of focus stacking, and looked at the variety of different background ideas for your toy photography. Oh, and before I forget, you'll find all the links to those videos in the description below, so make sure to check them out. Today's video is all about special effects. I'll take you through the complete special effects edit of this week's shot. So make sure you have your lightsaber ready. This is going to be fun. Oh, and just a quick reminder, I promise I won't be annoying and ask you to hit that subscribe button just yet. But if you like what you see, I might give you a little nudge later on. Cool. All right, let's do it. Hi everybody, I'm Kersten Luts and you're watching Platypod TV, brought to you by Platypod, where innovation never sleeps. Okay, so before we dive into the edit, let's have a look at how this shot came together. So the main idea was to recreate the iconic opening action scene from the original Star Wars movie A New Hope. Although, I seem to remember when that movie originally came out, it was just called Star Wars. What happened there? Not yet. Anyway, where Darth Vader boards Princess Leia's ship, the Tantive 4. You know, where the crew tries to fend off Darth Vader, but, well, we all know how that turns out. The Lego set for this scene is a fantastic prop for this shot. I used a couple of Panel Pro LED lights to create a red and blue glow in the background, and a third Panel Pro as a key light. To extend the set, I used white poster board held up by a Platypod Ultra with the base of the grip and a clamp. This setup makes it super easy to hold up the background panels and lets me move them around really easily. For this shot, I used my 105mm macro lens and did some focus stacking to get sharpness throughout the scene. If you're not sure how to do focus stacking, check out a previous video in this series where I explain it in detail. Alright, now that we've got the setup covered, let's jump on the computer and dive into the edit. I'm using Photoshop to start with, and then I'll head over to Boris FX to give you an idea of how powerful that software is and how it can transform your toy photography. So here we are in Photoshop, and this is the shot that we're going to edit. Now, we're going to create a whole bunch of special effects. We're going to create a lightsaber, some laser beams, and a whole bunch of other things. But we're going to keep it easy. We're going to start with the lightsaber itself. So in order to do that, we're going to create a new layer, and I'm going to pick the polygonal lasso tool, and just to see what I'm doing, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now I'm going to create a shape around the original Lego lightsaber, and I'm going to leave a few pixels of space. I'm going to go a little bit bigger than the original lightsaber, and why I'm doing this will become clear in just a few seconds. Now I'm going to close this up here. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to the select menu. We're going to pick Modify. We're going to expand that selection just by a few pixels. 4 pixels sounds about right. So that's cool. We've expanded that a little bit. We're going to go back to the Select menu, back to Modify, and this time we want to feather the edge. So I think an 8-pixel feather will do it. We want that edge to be rather smooth and feathered rather than, super sharp. So 8 pixels should do that. Okay, now we're going to fill that with white. Now we can do it in a number of different ways, but here's something, one way to do it that's really easy. Hit Shift and Backspace, and you're going to come up with a fill menu. Make sure you've got white selected, hit OK, and it has just filled in our lightsaber with white. Now we can hit Command D to get rid of our selection, and we're going to double click our saber layer, and we're going to get the layer style menu up, and we're going to go into outer glow, and we're going to choose the color of our lightsaber. Now Darth Vader uses a red lightsaber, so we're going to pick red. Okay, now there's a number of other settings we want to play around with. We want to play around with the size. We can make the glow more pronounced. There's a number of other settings you can play around with. The range, for example. The jitter. Play around with these settings until you get to the point where you think it looks the way you want it to look. Make sure the blend mode is set to screen. Otherwise, if that's set to normal, then it won't really look very good. So make sure that's set to screen. Cool, and that's our lightsaber. Lightsabers are easy to create in Photoshop, and you could create laser beams in exactly the same way. But I want to show you a different way today that will make creating special effects in your toy photography really super easy. So here we are in Boris FX, and we literally have hundreds of options of special effects. Everything from film simulations to different lenses, lens distortions, light effects, particle illusion effects, and so on. But for our intents and purposes, we're going to hit the render menu. We want to create some laser beams, so we have a special menu for that. We're going to hit laser beams, and in our laser beam sub-menu, we can immediately see tons of different really cool options. Now, we're going to go for this one, Alarm Laser 3. I know it's green, but bear with me for a second. Now, I've got two handles here, which makes life really easy. Now, we can move this laser beam to our starting point, and then we'll grab the other handle, and we're just going to put that in place. So what we're going to do is make sure we match that up with the barrel of our first laser gun here. And what I want to do is just make sure that hits Darth lightsaber. It's green. In the original movie, they're red. No problem. We're just going to hit edge color here on the side. That brings up a little color picker, and we can just pick a red color. So this is obviously the outer color. We're just going to hit this red. Now, the core color in the original movie is white. I'm pretty sure about that. So we hit core color in the side menu, and we've set that to white. Okay, we've got our first laser beam. Now, on the top left here, we can see our layers. That's very similar to what you would be used to from Photoshop, for example. And the easiest thing to do is we can simply duplicate this layer. So that way, we immediately have a second laser beam. What we're going to do is we're going to just put that into place. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to put that in place here so that we've got this dude over here firing into the ceiling. Because what I actually want to do is I want to create a third laser beam, and I've done exactly the same thing. I've just duplicated that layer, and I'm going to give that to our stormtrooper, because what's happening in our scene is that the stormtrooper shoots our guy here. He's falling over and fires off a shot into the ceiling. Okay, cool. Okay, so we've created some laser beams, but that's not all of it, because we're going to make it look a little bit better than that. One thing that we could do, for instance, is we could add muzzle flashes. We can go back into our menus here, and there's a special menu for muzzle flashes. There are literally tons and tons of different options. We just click through a few till we find a muzzle flash that would work for our intents and purposes. That's called the Lantern's Rifle. I have zero idea what that means, but never mind. Okay, cool. Again, it's green, and you might think, oh, well, but that doesn't match very much. You'll be right, but we can change all of that in just a second. All right, now all we've got to do is change the color again. We've got two colors, the inner color here and then the outer glow. We're going to go to glow first. I'm going to change that to red. Okay, that's our first muzzle flash. Now, again, to repeat the same process, we could either do the whole thing again, or we could just simply duplicate that layer. And I'm just going to fast forward this process a little bit. Here we are, 3 muzzle flashes created with virtually no effort at all. Okay, next I want to create some impact sparkles, especially here where the laser beam hits the lightsaber, and then down here where our guy gets hit. Now for that, I'm going to go into the particle illusion menu, and I'm going to look for PI sparkles. So again, we get loads of different sparkles. I think one that I like is this one here, the Star Trail 3C. This looks pretty good right out of the back. I'm just going to duplicate that layer again because I want the same impact sparkle kind of a thing down here. All right. So another thing I like to do is I like to add some lens flares. And for that, we're going to go into the light menu, And we're just going to find a lens flare that will work for us here. Now, can try this one, the 30mm Tokino. And what we're going to do is I'm going to bring that all the way up here, just inside of the door, where we've got some light shining through from the outside. And actually, that is not bad. And let's add another lens flare. This time, we're going to choose something that's maybe more along the blue side, and we're going to add that on the other end over here. But now that we've added some laser beams, muzzle flashes, some impact sparkles, and a couple of lens flares, it's time to head back to Photoshop just to give it some final touches. Before we finish this shot off in Photoshop, let me just remind you to hit that subscribe button, because that will help us reach even more people around the world. That's the YouTube algorithm for you. Let's beat it together. So now we're back in Photoshop, and the first thing I notice is that it looks a little bit washed out. That's down to the lens flares that we applied a minute ago. So I'm just going to go into the filter menu, and I'm going to go down to the camera raw filter. I'm just going to add a little bit of dehaze, maybe a little bit of clarity, just to counteract that. So again, we're going to get more contrast here by adding some dehaze. That looks pretty good. A little bit of clarity. Awesome. Now we've got a really nice glow going on the left-hand side here, which I really like. I think we can just add one more element. I think we should add a few sparkles on that side. Just make that action a little bit more intense. And so we're going to do that the old school way. We're going to use a sparkly sparks overlay. And here's one I've prepared earlier, so I'm just going to import that. You might notice that it has a black background. No problem at all. We're just going to go to the blending menu, and we're going to hit screen, and that will get rid of the black overlay. Now, all we have to do now is move into position. However, it seems to be the wrong way around. I really want these sparks to come out of this corner down here at the bottom left. Again, no problem. I'm going to hit the edit menu, go to transform, going to hit flip horizontal, and now we're just going to put these sparks in place. That looks pretty good to me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Any suggestions? Anything else you would add to this? But for now, I think that's a pretty damn decent battle scene right here. And there you have it, folks. Creating your own special effects in Photoshop and Boris FX doesn't have to be difficult at all. And remember to leave a comment below if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. Also, I highly recommend you check out my buddy Dave the Bearmaker's latest book, From a Certain Point of View, The Ultimate Guide on Miniature Photography. It really is a treasure trove of knowledge from one of the best. Now, if you want to learn more about toy photography, check out my podcast, the Camerashake where I've talked to toy photographers Dave the Bearmaker and Jesse Fireeisen in detail about how they create their amazing images. And if you're not yet following the Camerashake podcast, then what are you doing? Check it out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever awesome podcasts live. You'll find all the links in the description below. As always, take a snapshot of your setup or share your final shots on Instagram. If you've been experimenting with Platypod gear or try out the lighting setups we've discussed today, I want to see your creations. Make sure you tag Platypod on Instagram and use the hashtag #PostMyPlatypod. And if you like this video, we have a button specifically for you right here. Join the community over on Facebook to see what other Platypod users are up to, and ring that bell so you don't miss our regular videos. That, my friends, is all for today. Keep creating, and I'll see you next time.